Richo, I want to talk about Jim Chalmers and what he had to say yesterday. Roll of tape. Here is the Shadow Treasurer.
Your leader, Anthony Albanese, on Friday said he didn't reckon somebody earning $200,000 was in the top end of town. Do you agree with him?
Yeah, I agree with the 2 points that Anthony has been making about this. First of all, we accept that some of the language that we used in the last term and I used in the last term didn't strike the right chord in the Australian community. We do acknowledge that. And the second point that Anthony is making there is that if you're on a good wicket in this country, we say good on you. That is a good thing.
All right, Richo, what do you have to say about what he's had to say? And if you want to give it to me, give it to me.
No, look, I think that Chalmers has done the right thing. Paul, the problem that you've got here is that if Chalmers doesn't, admit there's something wrong, you bag him. Then if he admits there's something wrong, you bag him. So he can't win with you. He's got absolute Barclays of getting anywhere with Paul Murray. So I don't look to you to be much of a help in this. But I think Chalmers is making a good point. I want Labor to acknowledge that people on 200 grand a year are nobody's enemy. People on 200 grand a year are making things happening. And I'm delighted to hear Labor start to say that sort of thing. Because class wars will get Labor nowhere. They never win them. Because if you don't have a quid, you want to have a quid, you aspire. And so Labor's bound to lose class wars. And, Bowen embarked upon them and they were always bound to end in tears, and they did. I'm glad to see that Chalmers is reconstructing that.
But what's interesting to note is, look, it is good that he goes out and says we've learnt our lesson, but then Shadow Cabinet today holds a meeting and basically still leaves open the idea of if, but, maybe. If the government won't split the tax cuts, then they may eventually end up supporting them. But they'd really like the people earning over $180,000 not to get that tax cut. So they're sort of saying they've learnt their lesson, but they haven't really shown they've learnt their lesson. Is that a reasonable observation?
Yes. I don't think that what they did today is entirely consistent with the image they're trying to portray. And so I reckon they've just got to wake up to themselves on this. The thing is, my grand old party doesn't always get it right, and they're not right on this. They're mucking around on tax. All I know is I've never met a taxpayer that wanted to pay more. I only ever met a taxpayer who wanted to pay less.
Correct. See, Richo, this is why we love you, brother. See, we always end up agreeing, mate. We always end up on the same page. Rowan, what do you think about what does seem to be the gulf between the message they want everyone to see, to say we've learnt the lesson, but then at a meeting today of Shadow Cabinet, they confirm they haven't learnt it yet?
Yeah, well, you see, Richo's missed his vocation. Richo should be a tradie with a kind of papering over the cracks. The Labor Party are falling apart faster than a Sydney Tower block at the moment, and Richo's done a good job of kind of saying, oh, no, it's all OK, it's all OK. It's not OK. This bloke Chalmers is an absolute joke. I mean, he's been in, as you pointed out rightly in your editorial, he's been in some of the key portfolios, and he would have been a key player in the Labor government had Richo been right, which I would like to point out he was wrong. Had he been right...
You don't do
Labor,
that much.
Well, I have to keep reminding you because you kept reminding me that I was going to be wrong. So this bloke Chalmers is in it up to his teeth in all the mistakes that Labor made, and he couldn't even say, I got it wrong. He said, oh, we were a bit tone deaf, or we didn't strike a chord. They used all this spin jargon, Paul, rather than saying, I was wrong. I got it right, and I'm now going to change my tune because I learnt the lesson of the election. Labor can't bring themselves to say it. Richo does a fine old job of papering over the cracks, but the Labor Party, they chose the wrong bloke with Albanese, as Richo knows. Albanese is a disaster. We're seeing that every day. Can't make a decision.
That's nonsense.
Absolute,
I do not know that at all.
Absolute farce.
He is the guy I would have,
Labor,
I would have voted
Labor
for.
Labor had a chance to get it right, but they got it.
Cannot cop that. Albo is my mate, and I think Albo is going to be a great leader for us, and Albo will win the next election. So remain calm, but don't accuse me of in any way backing off Albo, because I never have, not for a second.
Fair enough.
No, your columns are pretty consistent, as are your public utterances. Cory and then Pauline, and we've got to move on.
I reckon Richo's just made his second bad election call in 50 years.
Oh,
I think so.
Don't. All right, Pauline, this bloke says that he's starting to understand Queensland. He's done a little trip over 4 days. He's starting to deliver the message back to the boss, but when the boss has a chance to talk about those tax cuts, they're not backing them.
All right. Anthony Albanese gave me a call today, and I know Anthony because I did a trip overseas with him, parliamentary, so I got to know Albo. He did ring me today with regards to the tax cuts and asked me where I stood with this and what they were thinking about doing. I'm going to have further talks with him next week because I want to see what the impact it is going to be on the budget by passing first and second stage. When I spoke to Cormann last week, he said, dead set, he's not negotiating, we are not changing at all, we are going to go with the first, second and third package. Has Labor got it? Look, I don't think so. They want to pass it, and I understand that people need the personal tax cuts passed. They need relief because the escalating costs of living costs. But when he talks about infrastructure projects, we do need roads, but we need to put in infrastructure that is going to create jobs and bring down the cost of electricity. And we need water projects like the Bradfield scheme to give the water to drought-affected farmers and run it down to the Murray-Darling that's affecting communities as well. So these are long-term projects that will see us into the future, not short-term sugar hits that any government can change in the tax cuts at the next election. So this is where my head's at. I want to know what it's going to cost the economy and the impact it's going to have. So I'm not making decisions going with either Liberal or Labor. I'm going to look at the impact, and I'll have further talks with Albanese next week. But I appreciate him giving me the phone call and talking to me personally about it today.
All right, well, there's been a bit of news, lots of news tonight. Cory Bernardi's not going back to the Libs and Albo's on the phone to Pauline. Cory, one more. I've desperately got to take a break, mate.
Yeah, just a question. Why don't Labor pass all 3 tranches of the tax cuts and then go to the next election saying they're going to repeal the last one? That'd clear it all up.
Well,
Good call.
Well, correct. Well, Richo, come on, you're the Albo whisperer.
I don't know anyone who's ever won an election saying, I'm going to take some money out of your pocket. So, no, I wouldn't be urging Albo to do that in any way, shape or form. Thanks for the advice, Cory, but no.
It's pretty simple, right? Shorten didn't listen on 50-50 renewables, didn't listen on tax, and look what happened. Listen to Richo, OK?